The greatest sin in the Bible is independence, because independence is derived from pride.
And when that pride leads to an inevitable fall, Dr. Tony Evans says nothing on earth can help you get back up again.
Counselor not going to fix that. Have more money not going to fix that. A new job is not going to fix that. He's just going to transfer the confusion with your new location.
This is The Alternative with Dr. Tony Evans, author, speaker, senior pastor of Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship in Dallas, Texas, and president of the Urban Alternative. The 4th of July commemorates America's declaration of independence from a foreign king. That's worth celebrating. But today, Dr. Evans explains why trying to declare independence from our heavenly king is another matter. Let's join him.
At the core, the fundamental core of much of the chaos in our lives, in our families, and in our world is our insistence on declaring independence. When you and I declare independence from God, we have declared war on him. Unlike America declaring war on England, this is a battle you cannot win. In Genesis chapter 10, God has outlined the table of nations and unfolded how civilization began to emerge. God had made it clear to Noah and his sons that I want you to fulfill what I first gave Adam and Eve, and I want you to fill the earth. These are my instructions. This is what I want you to do. These three sons went in their three different directions. One settled in Europe, the other settled in Africa, the other settled in the Middle East. The three sons represents the three directions that the nations went into. They did not want what God wanted. They wanted what they wanted, and they came up with a strategy to produce what they desired. Notice what they wanted to do. They want to do three things. The first thing they said is, let's build a city. And this capital will be the center of the world. The second thing they wanted to do was to build a name. What they were saying was, we're going to not be given a name by God. We're going to make a name for ourselves. Underlining ourselves. This is autonomy. This is independence. In other words, to put it bluntly, God, and nobody else for that matter, is going to tell us what to do. So they want to build a city, a civilization, a life centralized in man, not in God. They want themselves to have a name, a reputation, or significance independent of God. And the third thing they want is a tower. He says, let us build this tower, this religious symbol of our worship. Let's spiritualize our rebellion against God so that it reaches into the heavens. Now, the chief religion in Babylon was astrology. To reach into the heavens meant to the moon and the sun and the stars and the heavenly bodies. It was astrology. So when you look up your horoscopes, when you read the paper or even ask somebody else, what sign are you? You have joined the Babylonians in their worship. Romans 1 makes it clear, any discussion of the creation, to give it the value of the creator, is idolatry. So anything that you use in the creation to give it the definition, authority, or influence of the creator means that you have joined the rebellion of Genesis chapter 11. And so they are in rebellion. Now, in order to facilitate their rebellion, they want to expand their technology. Because we're we're told in verse 3 that what they have done is they have advanced their building materials from stone to brick and from mortar to tar. They took what was there naturally and they advanced it to do more with it. In other words, they got more technologically advanced when they brought their human ingenuity together. But here is the kicker. They used their technological advancement to rebel against God. Rather than looking at their capacity to move stone to brick and mortar to tar as an opportunity to serve God, they use their advancement as an opportunity to situate themselves to rebel against God. How are you using your advancement? Is your college degree helping you to serve God more or to serve him less? Is your greater income helping you to serve God more or to serve him less? It has the more you've been blessed brought you to God or driven you from him? They use their technology, their ingenuity, their science, and their brain power to help them to rebel more successfully, to help them to become more independent from God. You see, the greatest sin in the Bible is rebellion. The greatest sin in the Bible is independence, because independence is derived from pride. And pride is the great sin of Satan. I can make it independently of God, and I can do it while still being religious. I can build me a tower. I can build me a church with a steeple on top as long as I don't have to answer to God, as long as I can use my human ingenuity, and as long as it's about my name. And so they wanted to promote their name and eliminate God's name, deifying man over God. God comes down and in verse 6 says, and the Lord said, behold. That means take a good look. They are one people and they all have the same language. And this is what they began to do. So they got started. It's looking like they're doing well. And now nothing which they purpose to do will be impossible for them. In other words, they have played their card. They are saying that through unity, through coming together in rebellion against God, they will be able to break divine boundaries and they will be able to achieve their own goals. They will be able to satisfy their own dreams without me. Verse 7 says, come, let us go down and there confuse their language, and let's mess up what they started. Let's bring about, here it is, confusion. Let's bring about confusion. Is your life in confusion? Chaos? Controversy? It may not be the devil at all. It may be God saying, let's go down. Where did confusion come from? It came from God. It came from God. When you and I travel east, away from God's blessing, what you get is confusion. We're seeing confusion in our personal lives. It's chaos. We're out of control because we want independence. Husbands and wives are at each other's throats all day, every day. Everybody hate going home because nobody wants to be in the role that God designs, so they want to give themselves their own names, and as a result, God sends confusion. Confusion in our careers, confusion in our finances, confusion. We are confusion because we want to be independent while we still build a tower and show up at church. We still want religion, but we want religion autonomously, not dependently. God calls the last shot, not man. God says where this is going to wind up. And we got the whole world agreeing. Now, if God can confuse the whole world, he can confuse you. He can send you into confusion. He set Nebuchadnezzar into confusion. He went into emotional chaos. He had an emotional meltdown because he insisted on being independent or having it his way. When it comes to God, you can't have it your way. When it comes to God, you must yield. And that yield means submitting to his will, his word, his way, even though you don't want it, prefer it, like it, or choose it.
Dr. Evans will come back with more of our message in just a moment, including a look at why trying to fly solo may actually work for a while. First, though, I want to let you know about a very special offer that's only available today. As the presidential campaign hype keeps ramping up, it gets harder and harder to sift out the truth and stay focused on what's really important. So we'd like you to have a copy of Dr. Evans' booklet, How Should Christians Vote? It challenges us to look beyond what may seem best for ourselves and focus on the people, principles, platforms, or party that best represent the values of God's kingdom. Tony also looks at the qualities that make a good candidate and talks about whether certain issues are non-negotiable. With the election just a few months away, we'd like you to have a copy of How Should Christians Vote? So if we hear from you today, we'll send you a copy as our thank you gift if you can help support Tony's ministry with any donation you feel led to make, large or small. Get the details and make your request online at tonyevans.org. You can also call us anytime for help with your resource requests at 1-800-800-3222. Right now, here's Dr. Evans once again with more of today's message.
You got to that time in your life at 13 and 14 and 15 where you wanted your own autonomy. You didn't want mom and dad telling you what to do anymore. So they had to deal with your and my rebellion. We're constantly having parents come up who are having trouble with their teenagers. The reason why God lets us go through trouble with our teenagers is to show us what he has to go through with us. And that is an insistence on autonomy. But we know the problem with teenagers when they are insistent on autonomy is the problem that they want to be autonomous while still living in our house. They want to be autonomous while still eating our food. They want to be autonomous while still wanting keys to our car. They want to be autonomous while still asking us for money. So they want it both ways. They want the blessing of being at the house without the submission to the authority over the house. And you can't have it both ways. If you want to be, how did your parents say? You know, parents have different ways of saying it. But one of the ways, my daddy said, well, no, if you think you grown, well then, take it all. Go get your own house, your own car, get your own clothes, your own food, and pay your own bill. All of a sudden, autonomy is not exciting anymore. Men want to be in God's world, in God's creation, without God's authority. And that is rebellion. So we have wives who are rebelling illegitimately against husbands, husbands who are rebelling illegitimately against the rule of Christ in their lives, children who are rebelling against parents, employees who are rebelling against employers or their authority and vice versa. And everything gets chaotic because God causes confusion. Do you know how frustrating it is to have built a city, built a tower, gotten yourself a name, and have somebody come down and mess you up? Why didn't you do that before I built? Why take me through that? Because until you have built something and seen it become confused, you don't get it. Could it be that God right now is against you? And that's why everything you're trying to do is confusing. You will not submit to his authority in any area. Personally, you won't submit to him financially. You won't submit to him emotionally. You're going to do it. You're going to have it your way. So God says we're going to send confusion. So the Lord scattered them, verse 8, abroad from there over the face of the whole earth, and they stopped building the city. He scattered them, and he stopped their progress. Whoa. Wait a minute, they had the plans. The plans were all drawn up. They had the technology, brick and tar. They had the computers were all networked. One language. They had it going on. Their stuff looked tight. They were together. But they did not calculate God intervening in the situation. They did not calculate that God was going to mess them up. They had the plans, they had the money, they had all the stuff tight. What they didn't bank on was that God was going to be against them. And if God is against you, it don't matter how much money you done spent on your plans. It doesn't matter how much you planned it. If God is against you, you're not going anywhere except to a location called confusion. Therefore, its name was called Babel. You know when people babble, you want to know, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? I hear something, but I understand nothing. Come on, husbands, wives, you be talking. Everybody talking, nobody understand nothing. Well, you're not listening to me. I am listening to you. No, but you don't know what I mean. I ain't dumb. Confusion. The name was called Babel, babbling, confusing speech, because the Lord confused the language. Who confused the language? Who confused the language? Okay. If God is your problem, let me explain this now. This is deep. If God is your problem, only God is your solution. See, if God is the one confusing you, then a counselor not going to fix that. Have more money not going to fix that. A new job is not going to fix that. He's just going to transfer the confusion with your new location. If God is your problem, then only God is your solution to your problem. So the reason why many of us are not getting out of our confusion is that we haven't addressed the cause. So God confused the language of the whole earth. And from there, the Lord scattered them around abroad over the face of the earth. This last line is deep. We're told that they had to stop building. In other words, their program was interrupted. What they had started, they were not able to complete. He interrupts progress. But it says, and God scattered them abroad the whole earth. And God scattered them abroad the whole earth. Now, what's interesting about that is that's what God told them to do in chapter 9, verse 1. God said, scatter. They said, No. In chapter 11, verse 9, scatter. Let me tell you something about God. God's going to have it his way. You need to understand, we're talking God. God's going to have it his way, with you or without you, with your cooperation or your non-cooperation. God's going to have it his way. Okay? It's like a parent saying, this is my house. And if you're going to live here, you got to do it my way. I mean, God is going to have it this way. He had his way anyway. So since God is going to have his way anyway, why not give it to him in a way where you don't have to be confused? I mean, if you're going to have to scatter anyway, when it's all said and done, if you're going to be scattered, why not be scattered and know what's going on? Rather than be scattered and be confused about what's going on. Can you imagine all these people going talking booga 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 booga? Oh no, y'all don't understand you don't understand me. So they got to now find folk. They got to go through all this trouble. And the worst part about it is they got to watch a half-built tower and a half-built city. That was time lost, money lost. Those were relationships lost because now the people they can't even communicate with anymore. All that stuff was lost, and God still scattered them. 1912, the man aboard the maiden voyage said, even God can't sink this ship. It's a quote. He was talking about technological advancement. He said that without technology, God couldn't mess with this boat. We talking about the maiden voyage. First time out to sea. That's what we talking about. When you declare your independence, you're going down.
Dr. Evans will come back in a moment with a final story about the dangers of trying to fly solo through life. So stay with us. In the meantime, there's more to today's message than we had time to bring you on the air, so be sure to get in touch with us and ask for details on getting the full-length version of this lesson called The Sin of Independence. That information is waiting for you online at tonyevans.org. And while you're there, don't miss your last chance to get a copy of Tony's booklet, How Should Christians Vote? Remember, it's yours with our thanks for any contribution you can make to help keep this program coming your way. Again, that's tonyevans.org, or call our resource request line at 1-800-800-3222, where staff members are standing by day and night to help you. That's 1-800-800-3222. Most believers know that the Christian life is a battle. Tomorrow, Dr. Evans explains why we so easily forget who the real enemy is, as he begins a powerful series on the subject of spiritual warfare. Right now, though, he's back to wrap up our program with this final story.
There was a plane that took off, a little twin-engine Cessna, took off by itself a few years ago. True story. It took off by itself. So there's this plane that's flying, took off by itself, and was flying high for a while. But then it ran out of gas and came crashing down. You can go somewhere without God for a while. You can become a success without God for a while. You can climb the ladder, corporate ladder, without God for a while. You can make a lot of money without God for a while. You can do a bunch of things without God for a while. But there is coming a time when you're going to run out of gas. And all that means is the higher you got without him, the greater the crash when you hit bottom. So today, if God is your co-pilot, do me a favor. Change seats.
The Alternative with Dr. Tony Evans is brought to you by the Urban Alternative. and is made possible by the generous contributions of listeners like you.